day, cup of the word. We're in Ecclesiastes chapter 7. Chapter 7 deals with wisdom, as many of these chapters do, but it has some particularly difficult verses as well as some very practical truths. And we'll start with the practical truths first. The first half of this chapter focuses on the idea that to look and consider the difficult things in life is wisdom. It is better to think about death than to just always have fun all the time, even though considering death, going to a funeral, mourning, those things are certainly much harder than going to a party. They are the things that make us wise. They're the things that prepare us for what happens after death. Verse 15 through 17 is where things start to get a little dicey and people kind of get confused, because it seems to point in verses 15 through 17 that it is not a good idea to really try and be very righteous. It seems to say don't be too righteous and don't be too wicked, but kind of be a little righteous and a little wicked. Well, in order to understand that, you have to understand that what he's talking about is not God's righteousness, but self-righteousness. It is a very bad thing to live a foolish and wicked life, but it's also not wise to live a life of self-righteousness, where you make up a bunch of rules and strict morality that can't be found in God's Word, but live this life that everybody else views as very pious, but has nothing to do with God's teachings. It's a self-righteous life, very disciplined, maybe even almost monkish, but it has the appearance of wisdom, but in truth it doesn't make you a better person. Then you get down to verse 28, and that's the really dicey one, because verse 28 can actually be viewed as a very insulting verse to women, because it deals with the statement that Solomon, he's found very rarely has he found a man who's put together and has his life in order, and even more so with a woman. It's important to understand that what he's saying here is not that women can't be wise, but that as Solomon looked at wisdom, and he looked at the world around him, it was very rare, even though wisdom is the greatest thing you can have in this life, it was very rare to see anybody attain to actually having the level of wisdom that they should have. And that, if that is true with men, it is especially true with the pressures and the culture that are placed upon women. So he's not stating that women are incapable of wisdom, but that it is actually harder for women to find wisdom in this world than it is men, because of the pressures that they have upon them. That's just a practical reality, just like the rest of things that Ecclesiastes deals with. And so as you look at chapter 7, it points to, it says wisdom is a great and awesome thing, but look at how futile life is. If wisdom is the greatest thing that we can have, look at how rarely it is that mankind actually gets the greatest treasure that this life can provide. So if this life is it, well, it's not really worth living. That's the point of Ecclesiastes chapter 7, is that mankind often lives a very vain life. And once again, as we look at Ecclesiastes, the whole point is, if there is no God, this life really is not a good life at all. It's a very vain one. That's your Daily Cup, and we'll see you tomorrow.